Hello and welcome back to Broadside Game with me, Zug. So it is still release week for the new patch, and we've been fiddling around with more builds and trying to get the most out of these pickaxes. And I think I've come up with a build and loadout that is possibly going to be the strongest single target heavy attack that I can come up with, or at least for now. You know, in the future, might find something else, but for the moment, this is it. So let's have a look, shall we? So we're using the Brax pickaxe, which is the heaviest version. As you can see, lovely heavy attack damage there at 742. Could be a bit higher if we dropped some defense, but you know, that's how it rolled. So what you're looking for on this weapon is, perk-wise, Flak and Carapace, or Carapace and Unyielding. That is going to be, Carapace Unyielding will be your highest damage output towards Ogryns and bosses. I prefer Flak and Carapace. Gives you a good, spread across the board for most things, or Flak and Maniac. And blessing wise, I highly suggest using Thunderous at rank 4 and Limb Splitter. And Limb Splitter is the one that gives you plus 60% damage on your first hit. And that's kind of what we want to go for. We're going for hitting big targets for big numbers. So obviously they're not on this weapon because I have not got them on this, but I have been crunching numbers and this is what I've come up with for that big old damage. Now, secondary weapons, as usual, I'm running the kickback, but you can basically use whatever you want. I do think the kickback is just one of the best weapons for the Ogryn because of its insane range and just horrific output. I'm using Blaze Away and Surgical, but if you wanted to, you could use Blaze Away and Full Bore. That's generally what's going to get you the most damage out of it. But because I'm unlucky, don't have those two on one weapon. But yeah, that's what you're going to get the most out of this. But if you want to, you can also use any other weapon you like. You can also use the Grenade Gauntlet, very good weapon. Or one of the Ripper Guns, Can Opener and Fire Frenzy on them, very good options. So we're going to take a look at curios. I still prefer going for a health focused with 1 toughness, but you can switch it out for all toughness or 2 toughness, 1 health. It's generally how you prefer it, but this is how I prefer. Max health with max health, toughness, and combat ability regeneration. If you wanted to, you could drop the health off of these for damage resistant to gunners, because gunners are just a pain in the arse. Again, use it how you like. This is just generally what I like to play with, but you know, if it fits you better, go for that. Right, so let's take a look at the talents, shall we? So we're going for a very left-leaning tree here. So we're going to be taking heavyweight for 30% damage against bulwarks, crushers, plague ogryns, and reapers. Also receive 30% damage reduction against the same. Basically one of the key things you always want to take as an ogryn. Furious, for each enemy you hit during the same heavy melee attack, gain 2.5% damage on your next melee attack. We are just stacking damage in this. Smash him, replenish 20% toughness after hitting a single enemy with a heavy melee attack. And the best defense, replenish 20% toughness after hitting multiple enemies with a single heavy melee attack. And then obviously the big friendly rock, just to help you snipe out those elites if you run out of ammo. Slam, impact bonus on melee attacks. Indomitable, for that lovely charge and attack speed gain. Stomping Boots, and Pulverize for hitting those bleeds and getting them out, because it's going to give you more damage and also more defense. Crunch, 40% damage bonus and 40% impact bonus to your fully charged attacks. As I said, we are stacking those initial hit bonuses on everything, and Crunch is really going to help you with that. And we're taking Batter, inflict 4 bleed stacks on a heavy melee hit. And then Bonebreaker's Aura, then we'll jump over here to the middle to grab the toughness boost. Attention Seeker, this is going to help your team. And payback time, 20% damage for 5 seconds after being hit by a melee attack. Again, we're stacking damage as much as we can here. We do miss out on Get Stuck In and Bruiser. but this is just going to give us team effectiveness and just huge damage. Delight in Destruction, 10% damage resistance per bleeding enemy in melee range, stack 6 times. That's where all the bleeds are coming from up here. And then 2 Stubborn to Die, 10% toughness replenishment while below 25% health. No stopping, we become uninterruptible while charging melee heavy attacks. This is very, very useful, especially when we're using the Brax, because it's a very slow weapon. And we'll jump back into here, and then obviously going down here to Implacable, 15% damage reduction while charging in melee heavy attacks, or melee attacks, sorry, not heavy. And then we're grabbing the entire node for Heavy Hitter. And this is your bread and butter for keeping that damage up. Increased our attack speed, which is good. Unstoppable, heavy is at 5 stacks. Toughness replenishment from melee attacks, kills increased by 100%. And then Brutish Momentum, light attacks, refresh the duration. A lot of people do miss this node, but it is very, very useful to keep those stacks if you have to switch into light attacks to weave in for hordes. So, sorry, it's very late while I'm recording this. This build's all about huge damage. And that initial first hit. So after we've stacked up our Heavy Hitter, got it to 5 stacks, got everything rolling, what we really want to be able to do is just take out all orcs and carapace as quickly as we can. Now, the damage output will be a lot higher if you do manage to get that limb splitter on the weapon. As you can see, the damage is pretty decent on this, but it's not quite that shock and awe value that it could be. I mean, there are a few other ways you can do this as well with the weapon. If you didn't want to take Thunderous, you could stack Thrust and Limb Splitter. That is going to give you massive amounts of first target heavy damage, but you're kind of putting yourself in the same box you would be if you're playing the Zealot with the Thunderhammer. You're a boss killer, but that's it. And that's not really what you want to do. I mean, you can, obviously, but you're kind of hobbling yourself by doing that. Thunderous is quite a good blessing to take, because you're giving yourself at rank 4 that 20% brittleness on anything you hit, and that's basically 20% rending, and rending basically works out to be so 20% rending is basically 20% increased damage, more or less is how it sort of works out to. And that's just a nice thing to have, especially on everything you touch with your weapon. It gets that brittleness stack on them. Whereas Limb Splitter is only for the first attack, and it refreshes. I think it's every 30 seconds. It might be a lot less. But I don't have Limb Splitter here in front of me. I'm not even going to bother looking for it. I know I don't have it anywhere. But obviously you can take Head Taker and Thunderous if you want. But that's more for an all-rounder. Just keep that damage nice and high while you're wading through things. That's not really the boss-killing potential we want. But this build kind of works exactly how you would think a heavy hitter build works. You just wade in there, start checking things to get their attention on you so they don't wander off, help your team out. Obviously, Taunt doesn't work in the Psychonarium, because that'd be too useful, wouldn't it? And also, Big Friendly Rock for doing that. Charge around, put the bleeds on everything. Everything does less damage to you when they're bleeding. And then you've got your kickback, if you choose this, to basically wipe out anything at any range. There doesn't seem to be any drop off on the kickback, and I hope they never change that, because I bloody love it. You can basically counter snipe with a shotgun. Obviously it won't work if you've got full bore on it, because for full bore you need every single pellet to hit the target. So it's very good for point blanking. But it is basically a counter sniper for the Ogryn. I played a few games with the Ripper. Very good for clearing hordes, but anything at range you are screwed, basically. I've seen these things work at 60 meters. to still wipe out snipers. As long as you can see it, you can kill it. Which is why I kind of always advocate for the kickback. If you can deal with the one shot, you'll be having a great time playing with it. But yeah, melee wise, heavy attack as much as you can. Kill all the heavy armor for your team and keep things taunted with your block push. And if you do need to cleave hordes, remember your push block attack is a big old sweep. Sadly, it doesn't count as a heavy attack, but once you get it rolling, the block push will refresh because it's a light attack. So your first attack is always a overhead, the second attack is a sweep, and the third attack is a diagonal overhead. It does look like it's going to sweep, but it doesn't very often, so just be careful with that. And I mean, there you go. It's quite a nice tanky build. A lot of damage, bit of defense, but it's quite a fun thing to play around with. So I do hope you folks enjoy it, and if you do, please like, subscribe, ring that little bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And until the next one, I shall see you later. Take it easy.